How do you create and deliver a fabulous presentation in less than 4 hours? As architects and data scientists, you're often asked to present information to the business in an understandable way. This exposure is great for your professional career, placing you as a good communicator, even if you're introverted, and increases your brand value within your organization. But what do you do when you don't have enough time? I'll share one of my approaches that I think will help you a lot. But first, hit that subscribe button and click on the bell icon to be notified of new videos on AI, architecture, and professional growth that I focus on every other week. You're supposed to give a presentation in a few hours, but you totally forgot about it. You have not prepared for it. Oh no, what do? The first mistake I notice people making is that they sit down, open up PowerPoint, and start using the tools like bullet points and a few pictures to create a deck. You'll usually end up with a lousy presentation. When I think of a deck, all I can visualize is you standing on the deck of a big aircraft carrier and slowly pushing the audience off the edge, one by one, to their death down to the sea. I think that's why it's called Death by PowerPoint. Anyway, instead of using PowerPoint, start with a pen and a few pieces of 8.5 by 11 standard paper. Flip it to landscape mode so you have more space to tell your story from left to right. You'll probably have 4 sections, so divide the page into 4 parts. The first is the background. The second is the actual work that you want to talk about. The third are the results and the possibilities for the future. And finally, the fourth may be a discussion or next steps. As you draw these lines, you'll immediately think about how big each part will be and size the section appropriately. So these parts will also depend on the type of presentation you're giving. It could be an informational sharing presentation, a persuasive proposal, explaining some bad things that went wrong and your next steps to correct them, and many more. The sections will depend on the type of presentation, but this is a general layout. Have an idea of your audience that you're presenting to, but you don't have to analyze them too much. You probably already know them. Instead, what you want to understand is what level of depth they might be interested in this particular time. Next, simply draw circles for concepts that you're going to talk about. These concepts will come to your mind in any order, but since you have a visual in front of you, then you can put them in the right places. And these concepts will be at different levels of granularity. Small concepts, big concepts, and so on. Once you have the concepts, now you can think about what you're going to share in each of these concepts. You have to think about some content and some visuals and maybe even some samples for each of these concepts. Maybe there's a demo somewhere, or maybe there's a visual that communicates the concept effectively. Use as many charts and visuals instead of text. Text is for you to speak through, not for the audience to read through. Sometimes you might even group concepts together to form higher level concepts, or you might merge and split concepts. At this stage, you're using the white sheet as your visual canvas, where you can adjust your thinking fast and effectively. You're like an artist creating this fantastic story that you're going to deliver. Then sequence these concepts. Structure is the most important thing for a presentation because it guides your audience through a certain flow. Otherwise, your presentation becomes just a bunch of random facts and concepts without any organizational structure. So advantage of paper is that you can draw and redraw these lines as you adjust the sequences that you think will make sense in your mind. You'll be spending about an hour on this part but this is very important. Only then should you use PowerPoint or Keynote or whatever other mechanism your organization uses to create the presentation. Now that you have the main concepts, the creation part itself is mostly mechanical. The creation part can take about 2 hours. Finally, mentally and physically rehearse your presentation. If you find that a certain sequence does not flow well for your audience, rearrange it. If you think you need to add some more new concepts, do so. You might even adjust the timing. Or you might notice that your audience does not need as much details as you thought they should, and so take them out, and so on. Rehearsing and revising probably takes about an hour. There you have it, total of 4 hours. 1 hour for planning, 2 for creating, and 1 for adjusting. I created this video itself using that same structure. I did have to spend a lot more time on the mechanics because it involves video creation and editing. If I were to do this in PowerPoint, it would have taken me about 2 hours for the actual mechanics of putting the content down. Here are some final tips that I want to offer you as you go through this exercise. As I said earlier, don't start with PowerPoint. Start with paper. Your visual thinking in the beginning will help your presentation become even more visual and less text-centric. Structure is key, and try to think in terms of concepts as the basic units of communication. If you have small stories, use them within the concepts to establish a stronger connection with the audience. The presentation is about the audience, not about you. Think of yourself as just a communicator, and that relieves a lot of pressure from you. And at the same time, it'll increase your brand value. Don't be too cerebral in trying to give a lot of data and information. Change those to visuals and stories. Create meaning out of data and convey that meaning. So there you have it. If you enjoyed watching this video, please consider subscribing. You can download a free one-page summary of this video by signing on to my mailing list. For those who are already on the mailing list, you should have the one-pager in your inbox already. Thank you deeply for spending some virtual time with me and giving me the motivation to do what I do.